I have some bad news for you. If you're like most churches, you're posting the kind of content to Instagram that guarantees that nobody will see it. It's because you're posting things that the algorithm actually hates. After analyzing thousands of church Instagram accounts, we can predict with some level of certainty which posts are going to get 20 views and which ones will get 20,000. Let's do this. Well, hey guys, I'm Thomas here from REACHRIGHT. If this is the kind of content that's helpful for you, it would mean a lot to me if you would hit the subscribe button. Now, in my experience, I find that most churches are posting the kind of content that Instagram is actually suppressing and trying to keep us from posting. And here's why so many churches do it. It's because these kinds of posts, they worked a few years ago, but they just don't have the impact today that they used to. In fact, we did some research and found that the organic reach on Instagram right now for a typical church is hovering right around 2%. That means if you have 1,000 followers on Instagram, you can expect 20 of them to see most of your content like the stuff we used to post before. But there are some exceptions and other kinds of content that I will break down for you in this video that will help you actually get more reach on your Instagram account. So let's dive into the 3 kinds of content that are killing your reach. The first one is one we like to call here at REACHRIGHT the announcement post death trap. You see, when social media started, it became clear that churches should be using it. For me, it was on Facebook, and the primary thing we were using Facebook for was to post announcements about our church. And in those days, it made a lot of sense. If someone liked or followed our church on Facebook or Instagram, well, they would see most of the content that we put out there. It was really an amazing time. You could post an announcement about your VBS or an upcoming sermon, and every time someone from your church got onto Facebook, if they were following your account, there you were, front and center. But that all changed several years ago when Instagram, along with all the other platforms, decided that they were now going to be more of a pay-to-play platform. So the truth is, yes, these kinds of posts can still work if you have the cash. But the idea of you posting an announcement onto Instagram and it reaching a large portion of your church is almost laughable at this point. We live in a day where Instagram is trying to show your content to everybody that they think would be interested in the kind of content you're posting. And in their experience, most people are not that interested in your church's announcements. It's transitioned to more of an engagement platform where people come to experience something or be entertained in a lot of cases, or even learn something. So here's my recommendation. Stop posting announcements altogether. If you absolutely must, just put them into your stories. They'll be there for 24 hours, and people that are part of your church are probably more likely to see them in stories than they are in your actual feed. At my church, we tend to use stories highlights to make sure we give the announcements a little bit more of a boost on the rare occasions that we do that, but we really only put our most important announcements. Do not make the mistake of posting 5 announcements into your stories every single day to make sure people saw it. Instagram just isn't the right platform to do that. But really, announcements are not the only type of content that churches need to stop posting. Here's another post that used to work, but just doesn't do anything anymore, and that is the scripture graphic. Man, we used to really love these, where you take a scripture and you put it on a nice background and you give it really a nice font and you put special weight on some of the words in there, and it really could make an impact. And I remember my feed used to be flooded with these kinds of things. And again, this is coming from an era when people who followed you on Instagram would see almost everything you posted on Instagram, but that era is long gone. And along with scripture graphics, I'd also like to call attention to the evil cousin of the scripture graphic. It is the pray for graphic. In a time of tragedy, oftentimes I found that churches for a season were rushing to get some kind of a pray for graphic out there to say, pray for this area when they were going through some kind of a natural disaster or some kind of an emergency. And it seemed like usually it was with good intentions, but so many people found that by doing these pray for graphics, you could get so many likes and new followers that it was a race to churn out the first graphic that said pray for this specific area. And if I'm being totally honest, I did these kinds of things at my church, and then I had some kind of a conviction. Really, this is the ambulance chasing of the church Instagram world. So I would encourage you just to knock it off, and not just because it's kind of gross, but more because it just doesn't work anymore. Any kind of still graphic that doesn't actually engage with someone is not going to get the results that it used to. But what's replaced it? Well, video has replaced it. Specifically, short form vertical video. These have almost fully replaced the kind of engagement we used to get with scripture graphics. The challenge here is that it takes more work than just designing a still graphic. You have to actually design a video. But if you are totally bent on doing scriptures still, well, you could actually do something really similar to what you used to do and just put it on a video and have a scripture that reveals itself over the length of the video. Set it to some nice music or some copyright-free worship music, and you can actually get some results with this. But in my experience, the real opportunity with video content is vertical videos of your service. It can be your worship, and that can be great as long as you have the right copyright set up and those things there. But I think for most churches, it's going to be best to be a portion or a clip of your sermon from that previous Sunday. And it can't just be any portion. It has to be something that's maybe the most interesting or impactful part of your service. My advice is make sure you get a really strong hook on there. I'm talking the first 2 or 3 seconds. It has to grab someone's attention. If you have something from in the service, great. But if not, you can actually record a voiceover that just offers a hook to somebody. One other thing we see getting some results and kind of making a resurgence is carousel posts. These are those posts that you kind of scroll through, usually somewhere between 4 and 10 different images. You can have just photos from your church or life happening in youth group or whatever it would be. But we've also seen results for churches just having lists on here, maybe top things to pray when you're feeling afraid or something to that effect. And people will be likely to scroll through some of that kind of content. So give that a try, but whatever you do, it's time to retire the scripture graphics. Now here's one more mistake that I find is killing more church Instagram accounts than anything else. You see, I've worked with more churches than I can count that get really excited about the opportunity that Instagram has for them. So they start posting, making these really great video posts. Maybe they're doing those carousels as well, and then they run out of steam after 3 or 4 days. Well, this is the thing that kills more church Instagram accounts than anything else. It's the problem of inconsistency. So what I tell every church Instagram manager to do is make sure you set a consistent weekly schedule and it has a pace that you can actually stick with. I recently started working out at a high intensity interval training gym here in my community. And one of the things that kills me is just not having the pace to keep going for the entire time. I know what you're saying, tell me something I don't know, but it is really a challenge for me. And I see Instagram account managers doing the exact same things at churches, is that they get going really hard, not realizing they just don't have the pace to keep going at that rate. So making a schedule is the solution to this. And every schedule needs to start with an honest assessment. You need to ask yourself, what can I realistically commit to doing for the next 365 days? How often can I post weekly? Ideally, you'd be able to post to Instagram once every single day at your church, but I understand that especially for small churches, that just might not be in the cards. I'd recommend kind of at a minimum, start with 3 posts a week. 1 reel every week and 2 carousel posts. One of the carousel posts will be a photo shoot that you can kind of scroll through, and the other one is maybe a list of ideas or maybe scriptures or principles you can share with your church. Whatever you decide, just come up with something that you feel like you can manage, and then write out on your calendar the days that you're gonna post it. If you're doing 3 posts a week, something like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday make a lot of sense. Spread it out and then just stick with the schedule. Now, a trick we use here at REACHRIGHT is my team uses a program called Vista Social to do all of our posting for us. So we don't actually have to be there when we committed to do it. So what I've seen most church Instagram account managers do is batch your content creation. Just set aside maybe 2 hours every single week to say, I'm gonna craft 3 really great posts in these 2 hours every week, and then I'm gonna set them to go at the same interval every single week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's that simple. Now, maybe you can handle more. Maybe you can do 6 posts a week. I know here at REACHRIGHT, where we have a large team managing and producing our social media content, we have anywhere between 14 and 25 posts on every channel going out every single week. So you can scale this as large as you want, but I would caution you, when you're starting out, pace yourself. Start with 3 posts a week, get that down, and then if you've made that for 3 months and it feels easy to you, well, then just start to increase. I promise you that doing 3 posts every week will always outperform doing 21 posts for 21 days and then going silent for the next 4 months. That is not the kind of behavior that the Instagram algorithm typically rewards, so you wanna just make sure you can be consistent. To that end, if you're looking for inspiration on the kinds of things you can post, well, our team here has put out a 365-day calendar designed to give you one unique idea every single day of the kind of things that your church can be posting on Instagram and other social media platforms. I'll leave a link to that down in the description. Make sure you download it and take full advantage. I actually did a video recently about which social platforms are best for churches right now, and while Instagram is on the list, it's actually pretty far from the #1 contender. So I think this is the video that you should probably watch next.